everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're all having a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today, where our featured guest is Kym Pomares. She is the owner of consulting, and she's also a professor at Child Care Genius University. And we are very excited to have her on board. My name is Nicole Farkas. I'm with Inspire Care 360. I'm the senior member advocate. And Sarah and I will be posting information in the chat section today. So please make sure that you kind of pop in there every once in a while. And we would also love to have your comments and your questions. So feel free throughout the webinar to make posts in the chat, also in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And whether it's for Tony or whether it's for Kym, I will do my best to make sure that they do get those questions. Today, we are being hosted by Tony D'Agostino, who's the founder and CEO of Inspire Care. And we are here today to talk about courage in the face of adversity. And what do I mean by that? This is a great day, guys, because get ready to be inspired. Kym has so many wonderful stories. She's going to be sharing her wisdom, some practical strategies so it's not, unreachable, and some amazing uplifting stories that are through her experiences. We're very fortunate to have her on. And she also is very big on tapping into your inner strength and transforming challenges into opportunities. So she's one of those glass half full, which we love. So we will be chatting with her. We're super excited about that. Again, I'm going to be saying this throughout. We do love to have your comments. This is for you. And we'd love to hear where you guys are from. So please, in the chat section, pop in. Tell us who you are and where you're from. We love to see. A lot of times we've actually had some people from out of the country, so that's been pretty cool. Again, my name is Nicole Farkas. I am the senior member advocate here and your MC for the day. There is my email. If you do have any questions or anything, I am available. I will be putting my email as well in the chat throughout. Welcome to Martha and Kidbridge. Wonderful. Let's see, we've got Juanita. If I can talk today, it would help to be the MC. From Gingerbread House Academy in Dallas, Texas. We've got someone joining from North Carolina. Welcome. Well, that would be our Sarah joining from North Carolina. We also wanted to make sure that you guys are aware. Rachel from Florida. Hello, welcome. We are very excited with Inspire Care 360 through our courses that we have available through our learning management system and our where we have housed the trainings and whatnot throughout, that we are IACET accredited. It did take us 2 years to get there, so we're super excited, and these count for CEU credits for your staff when they take our courses. And with that said, the webinar today also will count for CEU credits. Sarah, throughout the webinar, will be posting the links so that you can get your certificate for being a part today. Again, thank you for being here today. We would thank you, Sarah. Again, please, as you join us, let us know where you're from. We love to have like I said, your comments. Today, we're going to be going through some housekeeping, pays the bills and keeps the lights on. Introduction as to a little bit more about Kym, which Tony will get into. We love the discussion. So again, please, I cannot say it enough. Put your comments in the comment section, ask our questions. We do have an exciting giveaway today where you have a chance of winning one of Kym's books. Hi, Mary from Dearborn. I'm guessing it's Dearborn, Michigan. I've got family from there, so welcome. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about Inspire Care 360. Again, my name is Nicole Farkas. I'm the senior member advocate here at Inspire Care 360. We are so excited to have you on board, and we are hoping just to, give you guys some inspiration throughout the hour here. As we mentioned, Sarah does have the link in or she will be putting the link, I should say, in the chat for the CEU certificate for today's webinar. You do get credit for CE hours. And if you do not get that for whatever reason, I will also be placing my email in the chat. So please feel free to email me and we will ensure that you do receive that. And our host for the day is Tony D'Agostino. He is the founder and CEO of Inspire Care 360. And in case you didn't know, we actually, as Inspire, do own 3 centers here in Western New York. So we drink our own Kool-Aid, as Tony likes to say. But he has experience with talent, people learning, and just being a tremendous leader, as I know individually. But Tony, welcome. We're happy to have you and lucky to have you as our team leader. So,
Nicole, stop it. You're still not going to get that $5 I owe you.
Oh, come on, man.
I greatly appreciate it, for everybody. And I'm not exactly sure if people can see videos of Nicole and myself. I know on my side, I'm only seeing the presentation on the screen because Zoom likes to change things up once in a while. But Nicole, thank you so much for emceeing us and bringing us to this point in the conversation. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll take the baton from you. So thank you very much. Appreciate it greatly. And so welcome, everybody. We greatly appreciate your attendance here to one of our pop-up executive webinar series, and a very special friend and guest is Kym Pomares, who we're going to be talking about today. But before we do get started, there are several things that we're going to talk about. Number one is we continue to develop and create ebooks. And the reason for these ebooks are really for you. They're for you, they're for your team, but they're really for you to get little insights, hopefully subject matter expertise, where we go out and we research and we define and we try to get as much of a good understanding to bring to you different ideas and thoughts that have made many others successful. Our most recent ebook, which Sarah will put into the chat, which is a link that will bring you to it, and that is Building Trust with Staff in the Childcare Business. This is really about how do you create that super positive work environment, really effectively using communications and getting to that happiness, that job satisfaction that is really the foundation for why you will have success. We believe that the secret sauce in our industry is our staff. Without a great staff, the rest of this is an uphill battle. We all know how difficult it is to recruit. We know how difficult it is to retain. So the elements of what we can do to slow down that revolving door of people coming and going and really getting to work with the clay that we have of the staff that we have today is what the secret sauce is about. So taking a look at this ebook, I think you could see as one of those additional foundational elements about building trust. And our next book that'll be coming out relatively soon is going to be about courage, which is really about a topic that we'll be talking to soon. So along with some more housekeeping items, what I'm going to show you today is a little bit about one of our solutions, Healthy Advantage. So I'm going to start to play this. This is a very short video, but it's going to give you some insight on Healthy Advantage. So take a look.
As a childcare business owner, your employees are your most valuable asset. But how do you provide affordable and accessible healthcare benefits to retain and recruit the best staff? Major medical is outrageously expensive with high premiums and high deductibles. But there's a solution. Inspire Care 360's Healthy Advantage is here to provide you and your employees with qualified plans, including 5 tiers of coverage, with Telemed, Basic, Virtual, Ultra, and Ultimate. Give your staff options from basic preventative care all the way up to $15 office visits, specialist visits, and so much more. We also offer dental and vision, hospitalization, maternity, medical recovery, critical illness, and group life insurance. Don't miss out on the chance to provide your team with the affordable and accessible healthcare they deserve. Contact us today to start your healthcare journey with Inspire Care 360's Healthy Advantage.
So you are welcome to either put into the chat, we'll put a link for our customer service at inspirecare360.com. If you're interested at all in Healthy Advantage, I know some of you have been on here before, may have seen it, but Healthy Advantage has really been a game changer for many of our members. And we do have some non-members who've decided to invest in Healthy Advantage too. So with Healthy Advantage, it's one of the few things that you do not have to be a full-time member with us. But it is a wonderful solution. It is really finding a way to offer a benefit for healthcare that not only does it really support your staff, your administrators, and possibly even yourself if you're an owner operator, but it is also something that is qualified. So if you do have more than 50 FTEs, it meets the requirements for the Affordable Care Act. But it is a really great program in the sense that there's no high deductibles and there's no high premiums. So how do we make that happen? Well, what it is we sort of break apart a major medical program. So we look at how it is to go and visit the doctor's office, which tend to be our younger team members up, and I say younger, but up to the ages of 45, which is still very young, and 45, 50, and even beyond that. But it allows people to go to the doctor's office rather inexpensively. So we have 5 different programs that your staff members get to choose from. Of those 5 different programs, the employer's rate is fixed. So no matter what your staff member chooses, you still have a fixed rate, and it's only at $50 up to the first 10 employees per employee, and then it actually drops down to $25 after that. So it's super affordable. It really works well with having a budget. We also bring the benefit administration team to you. So what that means is you do not have to do any of the heavy lifting or the rollout or any of that stuff. We do all the census work. We do all the work to talk, to educate, to work with all of your teammates to figure out, is this something that works for them? So again, it does meet compliance, but it's sort of an all-in-one package. What is important though is we need about a month and a half to get the program rolled out. So there is some elements about it. If you would like to learn more, we will put some information in the chat so you could learn more. And let's move on to our next solution. We're going to talk about peak performance again. Peak performance is something that's relatively new. And sometimes people are like, okay, I've seen this a couple times, but what really is it? Well, what it is, it's taking our learning experience platform, which is Inspire University, and it is really bringing it to the next level for your staff. This is really about loading all of your staff into here and automating your performance management solution. What does that mean? Well, it means that instead of you having to chase down, give expectations, hope for several months, and then look at seeing it, did the person meet their expectations? Should they possibly get, an increase of merit or how things should work? This automates the process for you. So number one, it focuses on the development of your staff to become more of a professional. 2, it aligns them specifically to you and your culture. But 3, it also manages your performance and your merit system. All that combined in one place. So we have another video for you that we're going to share. This one's a little bit longer, but please take a moment to take a look at it.
With Inspire Care 360 Peak Performance Certification, owners will empower administrators and teachers to further their growth in careers. Motivated team members focus on the 6 C's of peak performance: core values, conduct, compliance, curriculum, careers, and culture to become competent and develop strong child care professionalism characteristics. Team members work through learning and experience pathways to know, understand, demonstrate, apply, and teach what they have learned. Teachers and administrators follow a peak performance roadmap. Every participant works to achieve mastery levels of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Levels 1 through 2 are compulsory and get to the level of understanding of the 6 C's. Team members who take the voluntary mastery levels 3 and 4 will demonstrate and apply their knowledge at the school, and level 5 staff can successfully teach skills to other team members. As team members complete peak performance milestones, they feel a sense of accomplishment as well as rewarded by what their school deems appropriate, such as additional wages or PTO with each level achieved. Peak Performance Certification is an indicator of high-quality professionalism, care, and early childhood education services that your school provides. Peak Performance recognizes the accomplishment of each team member and promotes their success with rewards, badges of accomplishment, and made fun and competitive through leaderboards. Gamification of the programs provides teamers the motivation and takes the burden off of administrators with automatically identifying accomplishments for schools to celebrate their teammates. Motivate and celebrate your team as they all become superstars with Inspire Care 360's Peak Performance Certification.
So I allowed us to do that where it gave a lot of information in a very short, brief, concise message. We do have those links, and Sarah, if I could ask you to send out a link to that video if people would like to rewatch it on their own time, and if they're interested in learning more about how to get involved with a program like Peak Performance, let's do just that. But right now, I would like to ask Kym to turn on her video and her audio and to join us. So, Kym, are you there?
I am here. Hello, everyone.
Hello, it's wonderful to have you here. This is a long-time friend of mine I met several years back, and I could not be happier. She has really become a good friend of mine, and I've watched her through her journey, and we used to share different trials and tribulations of being an owner of an organization. And sometimes it brought us to tears, and other times it brought us to joy. But I'm very happy to have watched her success all along. So welcome, Kym. How are you doing?
I am doing terrific, thank you. And I thank you so much for having me join you today.
Oh, no, I'm so happy to have you. You know that. And as if first time we're talking, of course, we did a little prep before this, but of course, this is, with Kym and myself, it's great to have her here. She is the former owner of Courthouse Academy, and she had, at Courthouse Academy, not only was it a childcare and a school with children up to 12 years of age or grade 6, but it was a full immersion, Spanish immersion program that I really think was substantial. And we're going to hear a little more about the basis of where she was and what she has done. She also has succeeded from her business. So she did sell her business within to one of her staff members at the time too. And she has now started her own consulting practice and is now a professor at Childcare Genius University with one of our friends, Brian Dupree. So Kym, it's great to have you on board. I want to give a little bit of background, and I'd like you to start from this basis. We talked about the story when you and I had sort of a pre-conversation of, when you opened up your schools back in 1992, your school and you did a lot of different things. I think we're seeing some decent success, but then you decided to really build a significantly bigger facility. And in turn, that brought some challenges to you. And that got you to the point where you felt like you were going to go under. So I'm going to take us off of this screen share for a moment and just for you and me to have a conversation here. So
Okay.
A fair background. Tell us a little bit about your background of how you got and you established Courthouse Academy.
So I opened, well, let me start back a little bit earlier. I knew nothing about preschools. I didn't even know they existed until I had my own daughter. And interestingly enough, my background, I have a master's degree in audiology and speech pathology. And when I was in graduate school and trying to work with children, at that point, I swore I would never work with children. So that kind of bit me in the behind.
A little bit of a challenge.
So, like I said, I didn't even know they existed until I had my own daughter, and I really needed a break. I had no help, no anything. My husband was deployed, and I found out about a preschool, and I enrolled my daughter, and I developed a friendship with the owner, and we then opened 3 schools together. Yeah, and then in not long after, it did not go well. Basically, our partnership soured very badly. And I ended up with Courthouse. Courthouse was one of the 3 original schools. Okay. And it was a preschool. I had 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and 4-year-olds. I started out with, I think, 10 2-year-olds, 1 3-year-old, and I think 12 4-year-olds. And I was renting space in a church. And it was going very well. And my rent was very low. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was working because my rent was low, and we were full. I mean, I had people spend the night in the parking lot to register for the following day for each year. But it was so small, it wasn't really hard to do, and it wasn't hard to make money. But then I was walking down the hall and I looked up and I saw their bulletin board, and it said they were opening their own school in September. That was how I found out that I had no place to be. So I had 9 months to find land and build the building. And that was really when things started to get a little bit sketchy, because I went from paying like $700 a month to paying, I don't know, $20,000 a month.
Wow.
And I had no understanding of my finances, none. I used the checkbook method, you know, like you keep entering, you know, checks and spending money until then there's no more and you have to stop. You know, I mean, I didn't understand projecting. I didn't understand anything. And so that was the beginning of things going very bad.
So let me ask you this. Number one is you're in Virginia Beach, right? You were. Okay, Virginia Beach. What was your full enrollment before you invested in the new building?
Oh, golly. If it was 80, that's high.
Okay. And so then you decided, because you saw notice, and I'm actually having something similar happen to me with one of my buildings in New York, but you received notice saying, hey, you are basically going to have to exit here because we're going to do our own preschool, our own nursery, whatever they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, you decided to go build a building. What year was this around?
I want to say this is about 2005.
Okay. So it's coming up on 20 years almost. But
yeah,
back then in 2005, you then looked and decided to buy a property and then to build a building on it. And you also made a decision too, at the time, did you make the decision at the time to do up to 6th grade, or did you decide to start with childcare? How did that come? We
started with preschool. We continued with 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. But I always had a dream of going to elementary school. Okay. But it was a little bit later down the road before I actually started implementing that.
So I do want to visit that too. Let's take a little bit of a detour there. Why did you just want to get into the preschool side? And I know there's a lot of people who might be on here who think that one, either, well, that would be great to do, but I'm going against the public school system. How could I possibly make money? Why would people come to me when everybody's taxes pay for public school? What was sort of your thought when it came to getting involved with, you know, going through K through 6th grade?
So it was probably more, you know, one of these emotional decisions rather than a rational business decision. But it panned out. But at the time, you know, once we moved into the new building, I was no longer in a class. Well, I hadn't been in a classroom for a while. But the older the kids that I taught, the more joy I got, because you know, I taught 3s for quite a while, and your concept of the day, you would go over it and over it and over it and over it. At the end of the day, you'd say, and what did we? And you'd get, you know, 15 blank stares. So for me, when I got to older children, when I added kindergarten, I taught the kindergarten, and I was like, oh my God, these kids, like, they retain it. They can give it back. So there was an emotional thing there. But then when I always had Spanish in the school. I had a Spanish teacher come in. I love the Spanish language. I also made sure both my daughters, they're now in their 30s, are bilingual. I made sure that they learned to speak Spanish, and I saw what it did for them as they were growing up. And so that was the other part of, I wanted to give that to the kids in my school. And that's, so that is partially what made my elementary school marketable, because I was doing something entirely different than the public schools were doing.
So in other words, parents and families saw that you had to focus on a full Spanish immersion program in addition to doing a regular full childcare as well as elementary school program, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And
So
so,
with the Spanish immersion was for preschool. It started in our 2-year-olds. It was
okay.
hard at the time to get teachers, so I didn't implement it in infants and toddlers, but we did implement it from 2s on up.
Okay, great. And so I think what we could do at some point is we can revisit that back if anybody's interested in the chat and wants to learn a little bit. I know that Kym and myself actually talked about the Spanish immersion program a while back, and I made one of my schools a Spanish immersion school, and I think it is a real differentiator. And I learned that directly from you, Kym, so which was wonderful.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear I helped somebody.
There you go. You help a lot of people. And
But that is
so,
very definitely a big draw for my
Right.
school, that we,
That's
and it
fantastic.
appeals to parents who want their kids to have more tools in life.
Right. And I think that's a really important thing is when we do look at differentiation, quite oftentimes we always try to think about what do we do to make it different so people come to us and they don't go to the school down the street. Quite often what immediately comes to mind is price, right? Oh, we just got a discount. If we discount or if we give these people a certain, because they're part of the Navy or they're part of this medical facility, we're going to give them better pricing. That's not a differentiator. That is all it is basically discounting the value of your offering. So adding additional value like a Spanish immersion program like you did, Kym, I think is really just genius. Whether you realized it or not at the time, I think
Not
it
at the
was
time,
absolutely genius.
but also in retrospect, it allowed us to be one of the higher priced schools because parents were willing to pay for their children to have that additional education.
Which I think is just truly wonderful. And so let's talk a little bit about, and I would like to ask that out there, by the way, is let people know if you're out there in our participants out there today, if any of you are doing a Spanish immersion program today, would love to hear it, to see it, or any other kind of immersion program. So let's continue on. So then you built this big building. How many square feet did you build?
Oh, don't ask me that. I had 21 classrooms.
20, okay, it's a very big building. So
Very big building with 3 offices, a social hall, a big school, very big school.
yeah, it sounds like you were well over 10,000 square feet. So,
Oh yeah, but let me step back. That was not the original building had 9 classrooms and 2 offices and a social hall. I eventually doubled the size of the building.
wow. Why did you decide to build such a big building at the time of building it? Was it just sort of, did you have a vision for it? Or was it just like, if I'm doing it, I might as well do it this size?
Kind of a little bit of both. I mean, I was leaving the church where I had no trouble filling it up. So I was quite confident that, build this big stadium and they will come.
They will come. Your field of dreams.
And unfortunately, it didn't pan out like that, but at least initially. But that was, so I went from, I don't know, 4 or 5 classrooms to 9 classrooms.
Wow. And then when you went from 4 to 5 to 9, before you even went larger, right? You did 9 first before you even doubled the size of that, correct?
Right.
So when did it start to hit the fan, I guess you would say, when you started going, oh boy, the old checkbook method isn't working. The non-projections isn't working. I'm sort of seeing me going off the cliff instead of elevating.
So it really, I'm not sure. I mean, I knew in small ways that I was struggling. I was always in financial panic. I did not have the number of kids. In the move, there was a lot of contention among the parents who were going to stay at the church's new preschool, who was going to go to my school. So my enrollment was not nearly what I had anticipated when I moved. So my revenue dropped while I had this mortgage that, went sky high. And I really had no strategy for what to do about it. And I really struggled with that. I knew we were a great school. I knew that people weren't aware of us for a lot. And that was during kind of the transition of it used to be, you know, we took a little ad out in the Sunday magazine part of the newspaper, and that was all we had to do. And people were transitioning away from all of that, but I didn't know what to do in its place.
Right. So you started seeking assistance, and you started seeking input, and you started seeking.
I did, but my original. So I found out about that. Goldman Sachs has this program called 10,000 Small Businesses, and I applied to that, and I was accepted. And I was so excited because I didn't understand my finances, and I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know how to fix it. I was so excited, and actually, it was incredibly traumatic. It was awful, absolutely awful.
Why was it awful?
Because they kept saying, you need to know your numbers. And I said, yes, I understand. Which numbers are those? You need to figure out for yourself which numbers it is you need to know. And I said, help me, please help me. And they were they wanted us to figure it out on our own. And, you know, I don't think I'm stupid, but I felt like an absolute idiot. And I also found out later, you know, we had different people that were like, we were put in groups, and you had your person you were supposed to go to. And I kept going to my person saying, please help me, please help me. They've told us we cannot help you, give you formulas, anything, you have to figure it out. Well, then later I found out there were certain people who were sitting their people down and going, okay, this is what you need, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't get any of that. So I was devastated because I thought I was trying to do the right thing and learn which numbers I needed to know. And that totally blew up in my face. So that was bad, really bad.
Well, and I can fully understand that, because in a way, you're going for help, and instead of getting help, you're actually getting intimidated more. And
yes,
it's starting to work probably on your confidence. It probably
absolutely. That was probably close to my lowest point, because but at that point, my mental, you know, health was not good. And then I was seeing my revenue that, you know, I was going financially down the tubes.
Well, and you know what, and I'm going to say something about that. I want to take a little bit of break for everybody out there. You know, I had a certain point in my life too, where it was a totally different thing. It wasn't with the schools that I owned, but I remember I had someone who just was always a little, and I don't think they were doing it intentionally, but they were always sort of demeaning or a little condescending whenever I was presenting on something. And slowly but surely, I was losing my self-confidence. And instead of getting out of it, I just kept on taking it. And I kept on taking it. And I started sinking levels too. It sounds a lot like your story, Kym. How did you break through that? How did you eventually go, enough is enough?
One thing that did happen to me, one other thing that happened to me during this time was I found out that my accountant, who was also my neighbor, who was also my friend, had not been paying. He was doing my payroll. He had not been paying my payroll taxes.
Oh, geez.
So at the time that I doubled the size of my building, like the night before we were opening up, I got a letter from the IRS saying they were going to shut me down because I hadn't paid my payroll taxes. And also around this time, I found out my director was embezzling. So it was really rock bottom. But I will have to say, and like a quote that I really like is, success is achieved by ordinary people with extraordinary determination. And that is me. I mean, I may just be your average whoever, but I don't give up. And so I did finally, I thought there has to be something out there. And at that time, I did reach out and I found Entrepreneurs Organization, because although I was going bankrupt, I had over $1 million in revenue. So I was eligible to join.
Yeah. And by the way, just to stop people, this is one of the areas that Kym and I had a connection in. Entrepreneurs Organization, it's a nation, well, it's actually a global organization.
Global.
It goes by the name EO, or Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's all over the country. We're not over here shilling for it or anything, but saying one of the reasons that Kym and I met is when I first got into the childcare business, I looked around the entire landscape of EO where it said someone had childcare, and there's very, very few people, but Kym's name popped up. And immediately I reached out to her and I'm like, are you an EO? She's like, I am an EO. I go, well, we're brethren. So we're, right away we had this instant connection. So what did EO start to do for you?
So you're broken up into forums, into small groups that meet monthly. And I used to call myself the den mother. These guys were, I was old enough to be their mother. and
When you
but
say
they're
forums, you're talking about groups of CEOs, right?
yes, EO members, CEOs in the EO organization, and you're grouped together and you meet once a month. And they didn't intimidate me. I thought they were brilliant, but at the same time, they were very kind. And you met me back when I used to cry all the time. And I cried at every flipping meeting. And every flipping meeting, I'd go in there saying, I'm not going to cry in front of these guys again, but I would cry. But they were so patient, and they helped me to bit by bit learn my numbers, which ones I should be tracking, how I should be tracking. And it wasn't that they gave me this big plan, but they just helped me narrow down a couple of things that I needed to figure out. And that really lit a fire under me. I love spreadsheets. I love projecting. I love my numbers. I love finances. It really lit a fire under me. That's my favorite part. But wow. In being able to talk with them, you're able to just kind of get some ideas of how to handle this different situations. And just their support and being really good guys. And I finally, because I often said, if you're in trouble, you aren't going to pick up the phone and call your competitor across town and say, I'm really in trouble. I don't know what to do about this. Can you help me out? And they're going to be going, yeah. It's a lonely place. It's a lonely place. And it was so nice once a month to go sit down with some people that I could talk about the business.
Well, and let me make a mention of that. I think you just hit on something that our audience for sure gets. Leadership is a lonely environment. It really is. For those of you who own and operate your own schools, yes, you can share some things with your staff. Yes, you can share things with your spouse or your significant other. Yes, there's some business people out there maybe, but like you just said, you can't call up your competition and start talking to them about the childcare right away. Now, I do think we can here in a way, because we have this forum across the country. And honestly, I'm a big believer of high tides raise all ships. However, if you're running by yourself in an area sort of isolated, it can become very lonely. I have to congratulate you for sort of persevering and finding your way from going from not, just running your own checkbook to loving spreadsheets, to loving projections, from not having done it at all and sort of turning that whole thing around to something that became a passion of yours. So that was the foundation. You started getting the background, which I congratulate you on. What was the next step of starting to turn your organization around?
I knew for a very long time that marketing was an issue. Like I said, I went from the little ad in the Sunday paper to, okay, now what? And I did try, I tried various organizations, companies, and had a horrible experience. But I kept persevering looking into marketing companies because I tried to do it on my own. I'm in an area that there's a lot of competition, and and I know a lot of people can tackle the marketing and Facebook and all that stuff on their own. I couldn't. I tried and I couldn't, and I knew I needed to have somebody handle that. And there again was when I was quoted the amount, I just about pooped my pants.
Oh, geez.
I felt very strongly that this company could do it for me.
Right.
So I created a spreadsheet again because I was so overwhelmed and intimidated by the price. I thought, I can't crack this nut every month. I just can't. I can't, but I have to. So what I did was I put across the spreadsheet the expense of it every month. And then I said, okay, what do I think that they could do for me reasonably? Could they get me 4 kids a month? Probably. So I plugged that in across at, compounding the number of kids or adding 4 kids a month. And then the tuition, and that's when the light bulb came on. oh, the tuition is compounding. I'm not getting just for the 4 kids and that same 4 kids. I'm getting from that 4 kids and 4 more kids and 4 more kids. And what I discovered, even after, at first it was like, oh my God, the amount I saw that I would make. But then I thought, okay, be realistic. You have all these more kids, you're gonna have to hire some teachers. So I threw some expenses in my spreadsheet, and I came to across, and at the end of 12 months, I discovered if I did not hire them, I was going to lose $36,000 a year.
Wow. Look at the way you started to think about it.
Pardon?
Look at the way you started to think about it.
Well, that was, yeah. So originally I'm looking at it completely emotionally. I'm panicking. I'm thinking there's just no way I can do this. And then when I did it with the numbers on a spreadsheet, it was black and white. And okay, maybe I get 2 kids this month, but I get 6 kids this month. Averaging 4, it took all the emotion out of it. It was a black and white decision. It's like, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer.
You know what? And what you mentioned right there, I think, which is just really important. A lot of us are scared to look at our own numbers because our own numbers are reality. And sometimes we don't want to face reality. Sometimes it's the pit in our stomach when we look at those numbers going, oh, I don't want to have to face it. I'd just rather go to work, do what I do best, and hope for things to turn around. I think what you finally did, what I'm hearing from you, Kym, is you already did that. You did the whole hope, and you found out hope is not a strategy. Okay, hope is not a. By the way, it's a good book by Rick Page. Hope is not a strategy, but it is. It isn't really a strategy. But what you started to do, you're like, okay, I have to learn my numbers. You found a group of people who kindly showed you how to learn your numbers, and now we have other people. We have consultants and CPAs, and those people who you can help learn your numbers. But when you started to learn your numbers, you started going, wait a minute, this really just becomes a factual issue and not an emotional issue. All I have to do is start doing the math, and then I start knowing exactly what I have to do to get to where I want to go. Does that sound like a right summary?
Absolutely. And I was able to use that strategy, like during the pandemic, we didn't close, and my elementary school was absolutely slammed full. And I had to buy, like, I don't know, close to 100 Chromebooks. That, looking back, that was something, if I'd had to do that back when, I would have lost my mind. I would have just absolutely been incapacitated with panic. But I just, looked at the numbers, went, no problem, stroked the check, bought the Chromebooks and moved on.
That's fantastic, because I think the biggest lesson here is your foundation of turning around your operation really came down to you knowing your numbers, you really understanding what you had. And it's, very similar to like when we wake up at nighttime and we're stressing about something. They say one of the simplest ways to go back to sleep is have a notepad next to your bed. Write down what you're thinking about, and it takes it out of your head and it puts it onto, look at you, look at you.
A chapter in my book, Get the Chaos Out of Your Head. That's a chapter in my book, which is directly from me learning to put the things in spreadsheets, put them on, get it out of my head, get all the chaos.
You know what? That's amazing, because what it does is it takes anxiety, it takes the fear out of it, and it brings it to a realization. Whether or not it's something that's good or bad, but at least what you do is you have full transparency on it, and you don't have the worry of it anymore, because at least you know what you have in front of you. So tell us where you went from there. You started to get yourself around these numbers. You started realizing having a marketing company support you was going to be important. What were some of the changes you did further, in addition to embracing a marketing company, in addition to these changes? Is there anything you did, like with your staff or your team or things of that nature, to really change the vision of where you were going?
Probably not as much as one might think, because I discovered about myself is I love looking at this kind of stuff and doing projections. So I learned to lean on my admin team more. With them, we would select applications, things to systematize things, programs to systematize to make us better. And I leaned on them very heavily for the culture, because that just was, I loved the culture when the school was really small. I had a very difficult time with the culture myself, with the staff, with the large, and me not being in the school. Going in, I didn't have maybe the relationship, or definitely I didn't have the relationship that I had had at one time. But I had to make the decision what was more important for the business right now as far as my skill set. And so I chose to put my energies into the things that I knew would benefit the school, but I made sure that people were in place who could do those other things that I was not so good at.
Which I think is another great lesson for us too. A lot of times we come in, and especially into the childcare industry, I know when I walked in, they're like this 6'4" guy who is now going to be looking after toddlers and infants and all this. The parents, especially the moms, raised a big eyebrow, and they were like, this guy's just a businessman. He doesn't care about our kids at all. He just wants to make a dollar. And I remember it took a lot for me to have to prove myself there, but in the same respect, I knew what I was good at. And what I was good at was hopefully bringing on the right people and getting the right person in the right seat. But I knew also I would not be the right guy for taking care of those kids, even though I was the director of my own school, even though I ran the toddler program personally myself for a couple of weeks. And those monsters killed me, tell you the truth. But they're great little monsters. But they're absolutely wonderful. And they taught me a lot of lessons about myself. But I think what I'm hearing from you, Kym, is you decided you knew the seat that you needed to be in that was going to be both productive for you, but also give you peace of mind as to the people that could be in the right seat to take care of your business properly. Is that a good way to summarize it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I knew I needed to have the right people who would develop, like my enrollment specialist, Maria. Everybody who came in to tour, they became her best friend. She was very personal with the families. They loved her. That's not me. Everybody, and the director is great at diffusing, the one who bought the school for me. I mean, she was great at the culture with the teachers and, diffusing situations. I had gotten better at all that over the years, but that was just not, it didn't give me any great satisfaction to do it.
Right.
What gave me satisfaction was knowing, we've got the money to run the school this year and money in the bank, and we are good. I don't have to worry. I can remember one summer when I was in the checkbook, wrote checks till there was nothing left. In the summer, our program would shrink tremendously, and I would hold my breath all summer. And I finally got to the point where I thought, okay, I paid all the bills for the summer. We've got $5 in the bank. And then I got my life insurance bill, and I just broke down and cried because I didn't know it was coming, because of course I didn't plan to project anything. And I didn't have the money for it. And that was, I lived in that kind of chaos and worry and panic all the time. So for me, when I learned how to project, learned how to figure out the finances and know where we were going to be financially in 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, that was, then I could be like, okay, and now you people who are great at the culture and the teachers and the families, and go for it.
That's great, because it's about the right person in the right seat. When we are owner operators, sometimes we feel like we have to be everything to everyone. One of the things I learned actually was, if I took myself out of my schools, I had my office in the schools. I actually took myself out of the schools and I let my team do what they did so well, and that elevated our business. So it sounds like you did something similar. So you're starting to grow. You're now getting the right person in the right seat. You're now doing projections. Were there other things that you did? I know that you automated. One of the things is you used Inspired Care 360 as one of the automations. You were automating with doing some other things. Did automation, you touched on this a little bit, but did that automizing There's a word there somewhere. Systematizing or automating. There you go. Systematizing or automating. I got it. Do you feel that that helped you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it made, it was much more easily repeatable. You could train somebody new to do the new thing, you know, rather than having sticky notes and notebooks and papers flying everywhere. It made, you know, was much more organized, saved time, was much more accurate. There are just so many reasons to automate and systematize.
Well, and I think it's an important point too, because quite often as owners, we're like, well, you know, the old black and white TV thing, right? For those of us who are up there a little bit in age. But
Those of us from the dark ages.
Not you, that's me. But
No, I'm older than you, so.
Well, I don't know. But anyhow, it is one of those things. Why change if it's not broke? Well, because you can get there quicker, faster, sooner, better, less expensive overall, or you're making an investment up front, but that investment up front pays off in all the other benefits you get from it. So I think the fact of learning your numbers, the right person in the right seat, automating are really sort of that foundation of what started to, you know, that really started to get you to profitability. When did you finally get that aha moment? You going, you know what? I actually have a profitable business here. I actually have a successful school.
So probably earlier, but then I had quite a moment when I was doing I think it was my 5-year projection. And I thought, okay, in 2 years, we'll reach the 3 million in revenue mark. And so that was where I foresaw us in 2 years, and we hit it a year early. That was when I was like, ooh, not too shabby.
That's awesome. That is great. And you started going, wow, I'm really starting to get there. So then you got to the point where your school is becoming profitable. You've got the right person in the right seat, you know, all the things we just talked about. Then you started thinking succession. What brought on that? Now, you know, just the fact that you were like, okay, the timing seems right. What was it about you deciding that you eventually wanted to move on and sell?
So it was kind of in the back of my mind for a while. But I actually had a discussion with my business attorney. And he said, you know, this is something, whether you do it in a year or 5 years, something you really need to think about. And I said, well, what I would like to do is I would like to sell to my director. She's been with me for 14 years. So what we did initially was a succession plan, but it was put in place. And this is something that everyone should have. It was put in place so that, God forbid, temporarily or permanently, I'm taken out of the picture, what would happen to the school?
Yeah.
And we put into place a succession plan, and it's kind of involved, but it essentially describes exactly the steps that need to be taken to keep the business running, to keep the parents from bailing, to keep the staff from bailing. And I chose my daughters to be the ones to vote to keep in my admin team and give them a raise, and you know, and all the things that needed to be done to keep the business going. And that just kind of got me in the mindset of I don't have to do anything, but if something terrible happens, I'm good. It's covered. The school can continue in good hands. But that kind of just, you know, was like, And I have to say, while we absolutely thrived in a very unhealthy way, anxiety wise, but we thrived during the pandemic. We did very, very well. We never closed. My elementary school closed. I made some really good moves that that were just fortuitous. I mean, I thought them out, but thankfully they turned out to be really good moves. And so we came through very, very successfully, but it did I was tired. I was really, really tired, as all of you are, I know. And I'm 68 years old. And I thought I could continue to do this, but why? I don't need to. I want to be able to go, like I just came back from a 10-day cruise. I want to be able to go and do some of these things, and I'm financially in a place that I can do it. So I decided to sell, and in the back of my mind was, I made probably every mistake in the book in 30 years and turned it all around and succeeded, and exited my school with 7 figures.
That's wonderful.
Thank you. And I thought, if someone who can screw it up as badly as I did and turn it around, I'd like to take some of what I learned and help other people who are struggling in the early childhood education field. I would like to, I know what it's like not to sleep, not to have the money, not to have, just to be in a state of worry all the time. And if I can help a few people get past that. And everybody's level of success is different. If it's for someone, it's just simply that they can take a vacation every year. They know they have the money, to send their kids to school. Then great, let's get you there.
That's absolutely wonderful. And I want to bring back on our screen here. You wrote a book.
Yes.
That's in your book. Tell us about you writing the book. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, there are a lot of great self-help and a lot of great business books out there. But I often found, that I felt very overwhelmed and intimidated and a failure when I read them, because they would write, somebody would write about, we got the HR department to implement this program and got all the staff on board, and we just grew and blah, blah, blah. And I think, HR department? I don't have an HR department. I have a director in me. How do I get there from here? I felt very defeated, actually, when reading a lot of books on growing your business. And I thought, back to my story, I'd like people to know you don't have to be those people in that book. You can still succeed from a position of struggle.
Yeah.
And so that's really what the book is. The book has lessons and things that I did and things that happened. It's a mixture of my story and lessons that I learned from it.
Well, and that's great. And by the way, thank you for giving one to us, because we are going to be awarding one of our participants today who've been on here, one of your books. And I know we've had a few people in the chat say hi, Kym. I think you have a lot of friends out there that you've earned over a period of time, and I understand fully why, because I know I'm one of them. Today you've become a professor. You're working with our friend Brian Dupree, and you're with Child Care Genius. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing there now.
So part of what I do is creating some content. I love, like I have done lessons on how to figure out what you should be charging in tuition for the upcoming year, using numbers, not just the method I used to use. So part of the things I do is creating lessons, and I use a lot of, like I said, spreadsheets and dashboards, but also coaching. So in the university, you can, people can sign up to be in the university, and they receive a coach, and we help them with this issues that they're having, helping them grow and develop plans. And the nice thing about our university is, spreadsheets and finances and all that kind of thing are really kind of my thing. Other people are great, like on teaching leadership skills. Another person is great on systems. So while I may be your coach, if you have a question for me on something with leadership and I'm not overly comfortable with that, I can pair you up to have time with the coach that's got great knowledge in that area. Well, so it's and one of the things I've learned, I thought I was the dummy out there that didn't know anything about our numbers. Well, I wasn't a dummy, I also now know that I have several clients who don't know how to use QuickBooks, don't know how to, I'm like, you are the person that I am here for, I want to help people get that straight. So that, because one of the things I feel like, until you get the finances right and know that your lifestyle and your school and your home are all in a good place, you're never going to have a good night's sleep.
Well, and we've come to the conclusion of our time. I will say, Sarah just put in the chat a link going directly to your page at Childcare Genius. And I would highly suggest that if anybody wants to have Kym be her coach or look at them helping out, it's fantastic. Please reach out to her. And Kym, I want to thank you for your lessons today. You're, as Juana had said, you are truly a motivational speaker. You might not see it in yourself because I know you're very humble. But at the end of the day, you have a very enlightening story, and you're someone who always elevates me when I talk with you.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I want to thank you so much for spending time with our audience. You invested in us, and I can't thank you enough. You're one of the very first members we had with Inspired Care 360. And that's not the reason I'm having you on, because I think you're just wonderful. It is, but you believed in us early on. And that meant a lot to us as we grow, and now we've grown so big because of it. So thank you very much for everything that you've done. I want to thank our audience.
I want to thank everyone for their lovely comments. There's so many nice comments in here. Thank you so much. And if there's anything I can do to help you, just reach out.
Absolutely. And we're so happy to have everybody else on board. So thank you again for everything you've done. Again, we have certificates for those of you who want it that'll be put in. And again, if anybody wants to learn more about Inspired Care 360, we obviously have a lot of information out there if you're already not on board with us. But Kym, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Stop vacationing so much. You're making me jealous. And so I just can't tolerate it anymore. No, I'm just kidding. I'm so happy for you. So thank you so much, everybody. I'd like everybody to have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for joining us today. This is Tony D'Agostino, CEO of Inspired Care 360. Have a wonderful rest of your day and your week. Take care now. Bye, everybody.